Welcome back, everyone, to OpenLine. Talking with elder law attorney Tim Takus. We were talking about wills and some interesting estate planning. In fact, Prince died, didn't have one. Interesting call from Joanne. Let's go to David. Hello, David.
Yes.
Hi. What's on your mind?
This is a little bit off your subject.
No, that's all right. Go ahead.
My wife and I, we own our own home. We're in our 70s. Due to physical challenges, we need to make some changes around our home. And I was wondering, what is your opinion on reverse mortgages?
That's in our wheelhouse, David. I mean, that really is. I mean, because I probably get that question maybe once a week.
I bet.
Maybe once every couple weeks. And kind of give you a background here is since we have a moment or two, because people go, well, what is a reverse mortgage? And the short answer to that question is that people who have equity in their house, okay, let's say you have a $100,000 house and that's what it appraises for. What a reverse mortgage does is that that you are allowed, by law, because these are insured mortgages, you're allowed to borrow a certain percentage against the value of the house, and I think it usually runs around 50 to 60%.
So you have a $100,000 house, you could
maybe borrow 50,000. Okay. And then they give it to you usually in a lump sum, but you can take it by, like, say, a monthly income stream or whatever it is. And the mortgage company takes a mortgage on your house, but you do not have to pay it back until you pass away or until you no longer occupy the house for more than 12 months. That's really the short answer to David's question. So it didn't really answer his question, but should he get it?
Those are the facts.
But those are the facts. That's what a reverse mortgage is. And so the question is, okay, so who should have one? Well, reverse mortgages has been around for maybe 25 or 30 years, and where they originated was, if I recall, in northeast of the United States, where people were land rich and cash poor, and they were healthy seniors, that didn't have enough money to pay the property taxes because the property values had accelerated. But it was a way for them to withdraw, to take out wealth out of their home, use that to pay to support themselves, and then they would have a cash fund that they didn't have to pay back until they moved out of the house or died.
Right.
Good. I mean, the property was continuing to appreciate, so the mortgage company knew that they were going to get paid back. The mortgage obviously is generating interest.
Do you take it all out at once, or do you get monthly payments?
Typically you can do both. You can, but if you elect one, you can't elect. You can't like change your mind. But most of the times it seems that they do lump sums.
Just a lump sum. Okay.
You take a lump sum out. Now, if you already have a mortgage on the house, you can't get it. You have to pay that off.
Oh, so this has to be a paid-off house.
Yes.
Okay.
But the key thing here, I think, for David and others who are thinking about this is that, first of all, remember, I think, people need to know, is that a reverse mortgage can be expensive to get. Their closing costs. Because remember, you're borrowing money, and whoever is processing and getting this loan together is not making any money. So money has to come out of the loan proceeds to pay people.
Right.
To do the processing and whatnot. So they can be expensive, more expensive than a conventional loan. Second is, because people are typically leaving, that if you're going to be out of the house in, say, another maybe 2 or 3 years, maybe your health is poor, and you're trying to squeeze out another year or two to live in your house before you have to move to assisted living, maybe that's not a good idea, because you're going to spend a lot of money getting the mortgage, and then if you leave the house, then you've kind of lost that benefit. So that's another thing. And then third, I think, would be David needs to think about, okay, what other cash resources do they have? Should they use those?
If you want to leave it to your children, that doesn't prevent you from doing that.
Absolutely not, because what happens is that, let's say that they borrow $60,000 against a $100,000 house. that by the time, say you pass away 10 years later, and the house is worth $120,000, and the mortgage is now worth is owed $70,000, then the house is sold, and then the mortgage company is paid back. They have to wait.
Right. They have to wait.
They have to wait until you die or you leave the house. And obviously, if you die, you're going to leave the house.
Right.
But if you decide to move, let's say you sell the house, they get paid off. So those are the kind of things. To me, it's a very interesting product. But there are a lot of considerations for people to think before they jump into it.
So it's hard to say, okay, do it or don't do it. It's good or bad. It definitely depends on the situation. You just need to know as much as you can about what they are.
Hopefully I can give you some markers to kind of guide, is this the right thing for me?
Right. All right, good. Thank you, David. Thanks for that call. Let's go to Terry. Hello, Terry.
Oh, yes. Hi.
Go right ahead.
Yes, I was wondering, should someone do, if they don't have any relatives or friends that they can count on to take care of their final expenses or whatever? Are there some organizations that they can go to for help?
Now, I think you're cutting out a little bit. Your phone's dropping out. But is there some sort of organization they can go?
Someone who doesn't have someone that they can count on.
Okay, so, if I could help, maybe try to answer that. So Terry's going, all right, I'm living by myself, and let's say she's an elderly person, and she's going, I have no family, or whatever family is out there is really they're strangers to me, and I'm strangers to them, and who's going to take care of me when I get old, or now that I'm old?
Right.
And there are organizations that, now mostly what they are is they're for-profit companies. Like for instance, if for people who are concerned about, you have no children, you have really no friends, or maybe you have friends, but you can't, you don't want to put the burden on them. If you have money, then you can say hire a geriatric care manager. You can hire people there are people out there that do elder care, and that will check on you regularly. That is a business, and that's a big business.
Right.
There's more, that's very prevalent, and particularly if you live in urban areas, like if she lives in the Nashville area, she has plenty of options, to find somebody. The question is, does she have money? Mm-hmm. In which case, if you don't, part of it is, unfortunately, if you don't have money, there's some options that you don't have. They're not, the state isn't going to let you, starve, or they're not going to, in your, but you may wind up, a minimal, you may wind up in a place that you really don't want to wind up in, and your Social Security is really just what's going to go towards minimal.
Yeah.
And then when you pass away, there'll be, a modest funeral, and, and I don't know, I haven't done the research on, where people go if, as far as that goes, but.
So that's why you want to plan, and that's why you want to plan for your loved one.
And it's good for her to call, because if that's a worry that she has, is now is the time for her to start thinking about, that, like we talked about, like at the top of the show, is how many people really think that far ahead. Well, she needs to think that far ahead, because it's like, well, what if this happens? Who's gonna find me?
All right, let's go. Lucy, always good to hear from Lucy. Hello, Lucy.
Hello, y'all. I've got a comment about reverse mortgages, and I don't want to dwell on it much longer, but then I've got to ask you, have y'all covered anything about healthcare power of attorneys?
We have not tonight.
Yeah, we haven't got to that yet.
Hey, well, let me say something real quick about reverse mortgages.
Okay.
I have heard and I have read that there might be a sticking point on those, that once you take out that reverse mortgage, you need to read the fine print, because a lot of them, they have a certain maintenance standard that you have to maintain that property, where if you would, sometimes you might let the paint job go and the paint peel a little bit. I've heard that they send people out to keep an eye on the property so the property does not go down, and you have to maintain a certain maintenance standard. So anyway,
yeah, and I think Lucy's right on about that, because it's kind of like selling a house. FHA or whatever, they'll insure it, but you have to it has to be up to snuff.
Yeah, so if you're hurting for money and you're cash poor, then you got to keep up this maintenance that you could, let go otherwise a little longer.
Right.
That might be something you might want to think about.
Yeah.
But anyway, the healthcare power of attorney, I have heard, because I was real big on these things when they came out. I have heard from an attorney that comes on Channel 5 from time to time on the retirement report. He was talking about this a few years ago, that you need to go a little bit deeper and thorough in the healthcare power of attorney, that you just can't say medical records, for instance. You have to be explicit in saying it, which includes eyeglass records, dental records, all x-rays, all blood tests, blah, 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 because he said that these hospitals are kicking back now, saying, well, this doesn't say this in your medical power of attorney, that you can look at your husband or wife or your mother or father's blood test. So on that, I'll hang up and listen to what you have to say about it.
Lucy, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
What about
certainly about the reverse mortgages is that there is that issue about maintenance and
you no longer are the sole owner of your house, right?
Right.
I mean, when you take out that loan, then you are turning over half your house to the bank, essentially.
Right. In a way, they have a mortgage on the property, and since you as the owner of the property, the record owner, you don't have an obligation to pay it back. Then you might start thinking, well, how much skin in the game do I have if I don't have to worry about making any repayments on this loan? I can let the house go.
Sure, yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Could fall apart around you, but they have some things in the contract.
They're going to make sure that they want to make sure that you have minimum standards. And as Lucy talks about the healthcare power of attorney, I haven't seen that problem about having. About how detailed that you need to be in a, like say, specifying what medical records that you can get. I won't contradict a colleague on that because maybe he or she has had some, experiences that my clients, haven't had. But
what is healthcare power of attorney? What does that mean?
That's where you designate someone to make healthcare decisions for you. It's a paper writing that says, okay, I Tim Takis, name. Lynn Takis, as my healthcare agent under Tennessee's durable power of attorney for healthcare.
And that would be
law.
Because you were incapacitated, and she would make medical decisions for you.
She would make medical decisions for you. Although usually because she's my spouse, she would kind of like be able to step in as a surrogate. But that doesn't necessarily mean that maybe she doesn't have access to my medical records unless I've designated that in writing.
Well, how horrible somebody would make decisions for you. Yeah. But you haven't heard of that situation?
I have not heard of that scenario.
I hope that
so I'm not going to...
Well, that's interesting.
I won't, I guess, Lucy relates what somebody that she heard on Channel 5 several years ago say, which I said, I'm not going to contradict that at all. Right. I just haven't had that experience. Hopefully my clients never will.
Yes, hopefully not.
All
right.
But you're right.
Lucy, thanks for the call. We're going to take another break. If you want to call in, the number 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. Take a break. Be back right after this.